Yo, what's up guys, and welcome back to Tryhard Nation. As always, I'm your host, the omegatryhard, and today we're back with another champion guide. But before we get into that, let's roll the new intro. Alright, hopefully you guys liked that. I really loved it. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Hit the video with a like or a dislike, depending on how you felt about it. But yeah, regardless of what you think, I really like it, so it's here to stay. If you don't like that, well, f off. I don't know what else to say. But yeah, anyways, champion guide. This champion guide is going to be for Big Daddy Apocalypse. In my opinion, he's the best mutant in the game, arguably one of the best characters in the game. I'd probably put him very easily top 5 just because of the amount of things that he can do, the support that he provides to the team, and yeah, he's just a powerhouse. On top of he's just good straight out of the crystal. Per usual, I'm going to go through the ability breakdown, the rotations that you run, the synergies, where he's good, where he's bad, and then finally I'll end the video with a overall rating. 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, ass cheeks, 10 being a god. And yeah, this is probably going to be a little bit longer, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. If you want to skip around, I'm going to put all the timestamps in the description below, or you can go on the little scroll bar in the video. Everything will be segmented there, but yeah. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Like I said, he's really good right out of the gate. And just another reminder, I'm not going to go through here and read line by line what each of his abilities do. If you guys want to do that, feel free. You can read them in game, you can read them on Aunt May, you can read all of the details, blah blah blah. I'm not here to talk to you or read to you. I'm here to just give you a general overview so that if you pull him, you'll understand how to use him. But yeah, so his signature ability, again, he's really good right out of the crystal. He doesn't need to be duped at all. It's just a very nice to have. Not even really a very nice to have. It's just a nice to have. Basically what it does is when you're not using him, he gains a regen on his next fight, stacking up to 2 times. So let's say each regen is 1,000 health. You go through 2 fights, which is the stack cap, and you get to 1,000 regens. Very self-explanatory, very nice if you're going to be using Apocalypse and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe if you're using suicides to help heal up some of the recoil damage, because he is pretty heavy spam special character. But again, it's not necessary. You can completely do without it. It's just a nice to have if you have him duped. The probably most important part of his kit is his genetic enhancements or his persistent charges. They range from 1 to 4. You get 2 if you're going against a mutant, and then 1 every time you knock somebody out that isn't a robot. So on top of that, you always just start each quest with 1. So if you go against a mutant, you're going to gain that 1 just for joining the quest, and then another 2 for going against a mutant, and then when you win that fight, you immediately go up to 4. So if you can just go in and fight a mutant, you'll immediately ramp up, and it's very quick, very efficient, and very powerful. If you go in and don't go against a mutant, you'll gain 1 at the beginning of the fight, or of the quest, 1 at the end of the fight. So then you have to do 2 more fights or go against a mutant to get that 4th. The first 2 that you get don't do anything except give a indefinite passive prowess. So each one that you have does an indefinite passive prowess. So if you have 4 charges, you'll get 4 of those prowesses. If you have 1 charge, you'll get 1 of those prowesses. Each one increases special attack damage by 40%. So at 4 charges, you're looking at 160% special attack increase, which is pretty nuts. His damage can get really crazy. But on top of that, when you get to 3 genetic code, he becomes stun immune while he's attacking. So this is pretty useful in a bunch of really niche encounters. Now at 4 charges is when things get pretty crazy, because what this does is when you hit into their block with a light attack, you stun them. Now, the reason that this is so important is, well, obviously because you can just create free openings. So if you're getting an AI that's not being very cooperative, you can just hit into the block, stun them, and then start attacking into them. However, you can also use this to hit into their block, stun them, and then use your heavy attack to refresh your debuffs. Now, what debuffs does he have, right? None of that says here, or that doesn't say anything here about debuffs. Where it gets kind of complicated with him is he gains debuffs on their special attacks depending on the last attack that you use. So for the special 1, if you end with a light attack, you'll get a weakness. If you end with or if the last thing that you did before launching the special attack was a light attack, you'll get a weakness. And if the last attack that you did before launching the special attack was a medium, you'll get a poison. So light equals weakness, and poison, or medium, equals poison on the level 1. Level 2, it's the same exact thing, only light attack equals concussion, which reduces ability accuracy by 35%, and medium equals degen. So the level 1, you can get weakness with light attack, or poison with a medium attack, and then for the special 2, you can get a concussion with a light attack, or a degen with the medium attack. So you have a total of 4 different debuffs. Now, when you use your heavy attacks, you can refresh those debuffs. They don't stack, so you can only get a stack of 1. So don't try to do that. Anytime you use a special or something like that, it'll just refresh it, or the heavy attacks will refresh it. However, if you do the special 3, any debuffs that you have on will be re-triggered at double the strength and indefinite. So for instance, the special 2 concussion that does 35% for 25 seconds, this get doubled, so it'll be a 70% ability accuracy reduction, and it'll last for the remainder of the fight. Another really good thing is at 4 persistent charges, or if you're going against a mutant, whenever you use the special attacks, you'll trigger both. So it doesn't matter if you end with a light attack or a medium attack. If you're going against a mutant or have 4 persistent charges, you'll trigger both debuffs for each of these. And again, to refresh those, you use the heavy attack. Now, on top of that, his special attacks do additional burst damage, which you'll see in little red numbers, based on the amount of debuffs on them. So he does, mine at rank 3 does 792 damage per debuff. So if I have a poison, it'll do 792. If I have a poison and a weakness, it'll do, I don't know, whatever double that is, roughly 1600, or yeah, roughly 1600. If I have a weakness, poison, and concussion, it'll do triple that damage. So it'll be 792 for weakness, 792 for poison, and an additional 792 for concussion. So that's roughly what, like 2400 damage? You get the point. It's pretty insane because that damage is also increased by the prowesses. It gets really out of hand really quickly. Let me see if there's anything else about that. Nope. The heavy attack also inflicts a bleed, but the bleed doesn't do like an insane amount of damage, and it doesn't have any interactions with his that burst damage because it's only weakness, poison, concussion, and degen. The bleed is just a nice plus. The other really important part of his kit is this right here. So he has pseudo immunities to bleed, incinerate, and ability accuracy reduction through disorient. So the reason I say pseudo is because they're not really immunities, because you have to get inflicted with them and endure it for 8 seconds. So it's good if you can get it to last that 8 seconds, but if it's a very powerful incinerate or very powerful bleed, it'll kill you before before that immunity kicks in. However, if you do become immune, it will last for the remainder of the quest. The same thing applies to evade. Every time that an opponent evades you, they gain a passive 10% reduction in ability accuracy, specifically for evade. So after 10 evades over the course of an entire quest, they're not going to be able to evade anymore. So Spider-Man, Nightcrawler, anything like that, once they evade 10 times, it's done. And again, that lasts for the entire quest. Another very big thing is they have 100% ability accuracy reduction when it comes to purifying or shrugging off abilities. Super strong for a lot of different matchups. You can use this to parry Kingpin, Vision Arcus, Agent Venom, any character that shrugs parries off. You can use this to completely bypass, with the exception of Jabari Panther. I'm not 100% sure why, but it just doesn't work on her. She purifies regardless. It makes no sense to me, but whatever. So that's basically how all of his abilities work. The one ability that I didn't go over is the Horseman ability, but I'll go into that a little bit later when I talk about his synergies and the Horseman ability itself, because that kind of all ties together. So now that you know what he does, you need to know how to play him, right? So basically, you're going to play him very normally, just parry, medium, light, medium, whatever, until you get to your desired special attack. Now, which special attack you want to throw depends on the matchup, depends on what you need, and all that kind of stuff. So typically, the rotation for me would be ending with a medium attack into a level 1, so I get the poison, parry, refresh as needed, throw another level 1, but ending with a light attack, so you get the weakness, so you have 2 debuffs at this point, build up to a special 2, again parry and having to refresh as needed, so that you do the special 2, do it with ending with a medium, so you get the degen. This time you'll have 3 on, and then at that point you can either go for the 4th debuff, which would be a light attack before throwing another special 2 to get the concussion, or you can go for the special 3 to make the debuffs that you already have on the opponent double in strength and indefinite, so you don't have to worry about refreshing it anymore. However, if I'm being completely honest, in most cases, in most quests, things are going to be very dead before you ever get through that full rotation. It also changes a little bit if you're fully ramped up and you have the 4 genetic charges or the 4 persistent charges, because at that point you only need to throw 1 special attack to get both debuffs. So in that case, when you're already fully ramped up, just build up to a special 1, use it with whatever combo you want, refresh as needed, throw the special 2, again with whichever combo you want, because when you're at 4 charges you place both debuffs, and again parry heavy as needed to refresh, and then into the special 3. But again, by the time you get there, most things are dead in most quests anyways, so it kind of just depends on what you need, right? So if you're going against a character that's poison immune, you obviously don't want to lead with a medium attack into a special 1, because you're going to get no debuffs on that because they're poison immune. If you need ability accuracy reduction, for instance, if you're using him against a Electro for whatever reason, you want to make sure that you're going into it with a special 2 ending with a medium, so you get that 35% concussion, refreshing that as needed, and then going immediately into a special 3 so that you can double the strength and keep it up 100% of the time. Weakness, if you're doing the actually no, it doesn't matter. Yeah, weakness for whenever you need it, but really you don't ever really need weakness, and degen whenever you want some additional damage. Very easy playstyle, very straightforward. It's just a matter of matching the debuff that you're applying to the matchup. Now, like I said earlier, he's very good by himself, but he's also really good with support, right? So by himself, he has a synergy called the first one. So basically he gains 15% attack rating for each mutant on his team, not including himself. So if you go into a team of, I don't know, Apocalypse, Red Cyclops, Blue Cyclops, Red Magneto, and White Magneto, you get 4 other mutants, that's not including him, 15% per mutant. So you get 15, 30, 45, and 60. 60% just raw attack rating, all by himself. Super, super, super powerful. He has a bunch of other synergies, but none of them do anything for him specifically. It's just empowering other characters. However, the other synergies that he does have that affects him are Cable. Cables is super strong. It makes it so the first fight he always gets up to 4 charges, 4 of his persistent charges. So if you're not going against a mutant at the very beginning, you can bring Cable along and immediately ramp up Apocalypse no matter what. Cable also gains a really, really, really strong synergy from this, and it solely took him up from a meme tier champion to one of the strongest mutants in the game, because now his degenerations can stack and they are way, way, way stronger. Oh no, wait, his incinerates are way stronger. But yeah, the degens stack and it's each hit. So I think it's 3 hits per heavy attack. So there's 3 stacking G-gens, and that damage just gets way out of hand. Another pretty important synergy is going to be the Stryfe synergy. So what this does is it makes it every time that he launches a special attack, his next special attack will be stronger. As well as well, I'll get into the Horseman a little bit later. So yeah, every time he does a special attack, his next special attack will increase by 25%, and it can stack up to 300%. So again, the damage can get really out of hand, especially when you keep in mind that at 4 charges, you're looking at 160% increased special attack damage because of the passive prowesses. On top of this, it just really starts to snowball. Jabari Panther, I believe, also has a really good synergy. I don't think I have her at any star level. Let me do a really quick search. Yeah, I don't. So let's see if it's on the 4-star. Yeah. So when you're doing a special attack, you gain a precision buff for every debuff on them that's a dot. So basically, if you have the poison, the degen, and a bleed from his heavy attack, you'll gain 3 precisions that each give 375 critical rating. So it just makes, again, that damage during the specials way, way, way stronger. The final synergy that affects just him is going, or not just him, but he's the main focus, is going to be with Magneto X. Now what this synergy does is it allows him to make himself a horseman, and when he's a horseman, he gains 30% prowess potency. So I think the way that this works is each prowess is increased by 30%, so that 40% per, or that prowess that does 40% is increased by 30%. So it would be increased by an additional, I don't know, roughly like 12%, something close to that. So it'll go up from each prowess giving 40% special attack damage to each prowess giving 52 to 55% special attack damage, depending on however the math works out, which increases it at 4 by, I don't know, like 40%, 50%, which again is insane considering how strong his special attacks already are, the burst damage, all that kind of stuff. It just really snowballs, and again, it's just really nice to have. You don't need it, But if you want to use him as the anchor in your team to clear a lane or do whatever, he definitely has the potential, because he has the utility, he has the damage, he has the debuffs, he has the rotate, just everything going for him. He's just a complete monster. But again, if you don't want to play him for whatever reason, you don't like his animations, the way he looks, the way he smells, whatever, he's a very good support champion. Now, what I mean by that is he has something called a Horseman Ability, and he can give this out to other mutants. What it does is you can consume 4 charges, right? You consume 4 of your persistent charges to give the next champion that enters the fight, or the next mutant that enters a fight, the ability to become a horseman. When they're a horseman, they gain 100% bleed resistance. So what that means is from incoming bleeds, they won't take damage. But if you have the willpower buff or the willpower mastery, they will instead heal, because they have a debuff, but they're taking no damage from it. So you can use this with suicides to make basically any champion have a regen at the beginning of the fight. They also gain an indefinite prowess, gaining or increasing their special attack by 50%. They gain 30% offensive ability accuracy, so characters like Archangel will proc those bleeds more often. Wolverine will proc those bleeds more often, the regens more often. They also go unblockable for 2 seconds when the opponent purifies a buff. So if you make somebody a horseman, you parry a kingpin, he shrugs it off, you'll go unblockable for 2 seconds. Yeah, it's super, super powerful. As well as 1 time per fight, the first time you get hit, you're gonna go unstoppable. So if you mess up at dex, or just a random evade hits you, you'll get hit, you'll go unblockable, so you can immediately dash back, and at least you won't eat an entire full combo. You'll just eat that 1 hit. It's not something to rely on, but it is a nice safety net in case you do slip up in a fight. In longer form content, in end game content, while it's not necessary, it really, really helps. And again, this lasts the entire fight. It's really, really strong. But on top of that, as if it doesn't get any crazier, there's a lot of different synergies to give an increased horseman ability for specific characters. So if we look at Storm, right? Storm has a synergy with Apocalypse where each hit of her heavy attack inflicts a shock. Oh, no, wait. Yeah. Inflicts a shock if they're already shocked. So if you use a special 2, special 1, or whatever, get a shock on them, you can use a heavy to keep applying shocks that deal 70% of her damage. And if you make her a horseman, so on top of that, with just the synergy, she'll have that first part, right? Where she can shock already shocked opponents with her heavy attack. Now, if you make her a horseman, all of those shock effects are going to be 50% longer, and the heavy attack will, on top of stacking new shocks, it'll refresh them. So you can use this to make Storm do an insane amount of damage through shocks. Sorry, I don't know why I'm having a hard time talking right now. Reading is difficult, I guess. So this is an example of what these synergies look like. You can make Storm Pyramid X, Psylocke, Gambit, Wolverine, Archangel, Stryfe, and I think that's it, that have like dedicated horseman synergies. So you can use any mutant to make them horsemen and gain those general buffs, the bleed resistance, the passive prowess, all that kind of stuff. You can use that on any mutant, but these specific mutants have synergies that just make them crazy. So we talked about the Storm one. Let's talk about the Storm Pyramid X one really quick. So after charging her dormant prowess, Storm has a 70% chance to trigger a passive prowess for each prowess buff that is already active, each increasing special damage by 15% for 6 seconds. So even if you don't make her a horseman, what this does is when she's holds her heavy attack, she charges a dormant passive prowess, right? Now this has a 70% chance to trigger a passive prowess for each passive or each prowess buff that is already active. So let's say you have 5 prowesses, you charge the heavy attack to gain that dormant prowess, and then you'll have a 70% chance to re-trigger each of these 5. So if you get lucky, you can double up. If you get unlucky and only get like 2 or 1 of them, you can gain that extra prowess damage, which if you know her kit, it's pretty insane. Now if you make her a horseman, she gains a 30% critical rating, and each of those prowesses do an additional 20% potency. So again, just more prowesses and stronger prowesses, and when you use that special attack, you're going to crit more often. So it just takes her damage from pretty good damage to just off the charts damage. If we go down to Psylocke, just the synergy itself makes it so her basic attacks have a chance to grant a psi charge, and each psi charge increases her critical rating. So the way that her Psylocke's abilities work is, as long as they have a psi charge, if they reach 0 power, they just can't gain any more power. She gains, or they can't gain power through basic attacks. She also gains more damage through critical rating and critical damage with her signature ability, I believe. And yeah, this just gives her more damage and more psi charges. You can detonate those psi charges with the heavy attack to do a burst of crazy damage. You can do that with a special 3 as well and put a really lengthy stun on them. Now if you make her a horseman, she gains 50% critical damage rating, which is pretty insane, and plus 50% attack rating when they're at 0 power. So naturally at 0 power, if they have a psi charge, they gain no power from basic attacks. She does more crit and harder crits. As a horseman, she'll gain more attack, more crit damage, naturally have more crit rating, and it's pretty insane. I can't wait to test this out as soon as I pull a 6-star Psylocke, because I really enjoy her. I think she's really underrated, and this just takes her to a whole different level. In similar vein, let's go ahead and talk about Gambit. So his synergy with Gambit just by himself just makes it so each time he gains a kinetic charge, there's a 70% chance to gain an additional one. So the way that works is Gambit gains kinetic charges. He can use a heavy attack to consume them and convert them into prowesses. So if you can double them up, theoretically you should be able to ramp him up quicker to get those prowesses quicker. However, if you turn him into a horseman, each of those kinetic charges grant a 10% perfect block chance. So at 10, he can hold block and take 0 damage from anything. He has a 100% perfect block chance. His parries are going to be longer, and anything that he blocks is going to do 0 damage, unless of course it's unblockable. It's pretty insane. It again takes Gambit from just an okay, good character to, wow, this guy is super sustainable. He's super strong. He's doing a lot of damage, ramps up really quick, and yeah. As you can see, that's kind of a theme for any specific horseman abilities. Wolverine, it makes his personal bleeds have a chance to turn into critical bleeds. And if he's a horseman, he gains more critical rating and more critical damage rating. So basically, the synergy himself makes him crit more often, or makes his bleeds able to crit, and the horseman makes him crit more often and do stronger crits. Again, insane. Finally, well, not finally, because we have one more after this, but Archangel, also, each hit of a heavy attack into a stunned opponent has a 10% chance to pause all neurotoxins. So if you're in the corner just spamming heavies because they're stunned because a neurotoxin expired or something like that, Each time that you use a heavy attack, you'll do 3 separate hits. Each of those has a 10% chance to pause the neurotoxins, so that you're getting a period of, you can kind of elongate where those neurotoxins are so that they're not all expiring at the same time and stacking the stuns. Now keep in mind, this is just by himself. This isn't if you make him a horseman. If you make him a horseman, his neurotoxin stun duration is also increased by 30%, as well as just the flat out horseman ability has a 30% ability accuracy reduction. So you're going to be hitting those bleeds more often, you're going to be getting those poisons on the parry more often, and you're going to be converting those into neurotoxins more often. So this just takes Archangel from a god to whatever is above a god, because he can do some very, very insane amounts of damage with insane lengths of stun duration, stun lock durations, as well as reducing ability accuracy. It's really insane what he can do as a horseman. Now his final one is going to be with Stryfe. Now what this one does is it makes it so that when Stryfe has 20 of his like telepath charges, I believe that's what it's called, when he has 20 of them, he is unblockable. He's just passively unblockable as long as he has 20 charges, as well as the special attack 2 pauses all of Stryfe's shocks on the opponent for 4 seconds. So it's just, man, this is so good for things, for basically anything, honestly. Act 6, Act 7, Abyss of Legends, Labyrinth of Legends, Alliance Quest, Alliance War, whatever it is that you bring Stryfe to. And I think he's very capable of doing all of that if you can get to 20 charges, which is kind of difficult, admittedly. But if you can get there, him being just passively unblockable is extremely, extremely powerful. This is probably one of my favorite horseman abilities, and it's the one that I've got the most practice in with. But again, this isn't necessary at all. It's just another avenue that makes Apocalypse super strong, because he's just insane support. Now that we're done talking about his support abilities, let's talk about where he's good on his own. Alright, sorry about that if you saw an awkward cut there, which, I mean, you did. It's not if you did. My computer was freaking out. I don't know why the OBS just froze for some reason, so I had to restart it. But yeah, he's an insane support, but again, he's not just support. Let's just go list off some of the stuff that he's really good at, right? So he's really good at fighting characters that shrug off things. So characters like Black Panther Civil War, he can parry even while he has an armor up, because he's not able to shrug off that stun and apply it to you. You can use it against Kingpin, Korg, against our Vision Arcus, Agent Venom, any character that's difficult to land a parry on. You can use this, completely shut that down. He's really strong against mutants, again, because he always does the double debuff on the special attacks versus mutants. He ramps them up quicker. He's really good against bleed nodes, again, because if you just last those 8 seconds, you become bleed immune for the rest of the quest. Masochism, he's really good for, because the way that Masochism works is when you get a debuff, it purifies it, and then you get the regen. This shuts down, or he shuts down that shrug off, so Masochism is just null and void. He's really good against evade. Again, it's a little bit tricky once you get to the like 8 or 9 charges, because most of the time they're not going to be evading, so it can get a little bit sketchy when you're just end up playing normal thinking that it's not going to work, and it actually does. But if you can land those 10 evades, you just counter it for the rest of the quest. So this was super handy for me personally in the Grandmaster Gauntlet. I built I built up his evade immunity on Spider-Ham, got those 10 charges, so for the rest of the quest, nobody can evade. So I shut down Spider-Gwen, Nightcrawler, and I think there was one more. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky to get this one going, but when you do get it to work, it's super, super effective. He's also really good against Distract, which is the node that you can't do damage unless you have 3 debuffs. He has very easy access to debuffs and he can make them permanent, so he's a really, really good option for it. He's really good for long fights because, again, you have to build up all 4 of those debuffs and you can make them permanent and double damage. So basically, the longer that a fight goes on, the more debuffs you accumulate, the more damage you accumulate. If you couple this with the Stryfe ability or the Stryfe Synergy, where every time you throw a special attack, your next one is doing increased damage, you can use this to solo fights in the Abyss, Alliance War bosses, Alliance Quest bosses, all that kind of stuff. He's really, really strong for long fights. Again, if you don't like him, if for whatever reason you think he's a bad, you can use him for support. You can use him to power up your Archangels, your Stryfes, Wolverines, whatever mutant it is that you like, you can use him as a support. Really, really strong. Again, you can use him in Alliance War Attack because of all of the debuffs. Coupling with Despair, you can reverse or at least mitigate willpower healing. You can, again, if you get to 3 charges at least, you can become stun immune, so the stunning reflection path, you can, actually that wouldn't matter. Yeah, ignore that wouldn't matter because you have to parry to get that stun reflection, which this doesn't apply to, but you can use it to deal with that middle path, which typically has the Novas and Thor Ragnaroks, which can stun you while you're attacking into them, trying to intercept. He's stun immune while attacking, so you can use him for that. He's really good on Alliance War defense. He's not as good now as he was before, just because people have gotten a lot of practice in against the Alliance Quest boss, but he's still a pretty good defender. He still pretty consistently gets kills in all of my battle groups, as well as he has a really potent ability accuracy reduction. The concussion itself is 35%, but if you can get the special 3 off, that doubles it to 70%. If you couple that with Pacify, Petrify, the mastery that reduces ability accuracy while parried, you can increase that to a full 100%, I believe, because I think it adds 30 or 35%. And if you couple that with the Assassin Mastery, you can go above 100%. Really strong, really, really strong. It just takes some time to ramp up to that. But in a lot of matchups, I know a lot of people use him for Summer of Pain to deal with the Adaptoid and stuff like that, because it reduces the ability accuracy reduction, and it's not defensive or offensive. It's just all ability accuracy, which is super, super powerful. Now, me having said all that, it seems like he's good at everything, right? And he basically is, but there are a couple things where he's not good at. He's not good versus robots because you can't ramp up versus them because you don't get any genetic charges, because they're robots. They don't have genes or genetics. They're just robots. As well as most of the time they're going to be double immune, which means right out of the gate you're not going to be able to do poisons, which means your damage is just going to be at a lower threshold regardless. Same thing goes for any immune champ, whether they're immune to weakness or concussion or degen or the poison. Any champion that's immune to any 4 of those is going to be not a bad time to deal with. It's just going to be not ideal because your damage is going to be less. Debuff immune nodes are going to be terrible to deal with because, again, most of your kit focuses around having debuffs on the opponent. You can't do that. Stun immune, he's not ideal for, because you can't parry heavy to refresh your debuffs. He has a pretty long reach on his heavy, so it's not impossible, but it's a little bit trickier, and kind of depends on the opponent that you're facing if you can heavy punish their animations. The other nodes where he's going to be bad are nodes that mess with your power gain ability. So stuff like, oh man, I can't remember what it's called. Power something, power something. I can't remember the name of it, but it makes it so after you have 1 bar of power, your offensive ability power rate is reduced. Special lock 1 or 2, it's really hard to deal with. Anything that punishes special attacks, so things like special delivery, or that one node that I can't think of, where when you launch a special attack, it puts a debuff on you, and if you launch another special attack while that debuff is on you, you take like a recoil damage. Those are the only instances where I can think of him not being that ideal, but even then, in some of those matchups, you can still use him. It's just going to be not as quick. It's going to take a lot longer time, because you're not going to have access to all of your debuffs. Aside from debuffing him, that he's just terrible for him. Don't do it. Now, with all of that being said, what is his overall rating? He can do a lot. He's a good support champion. He's good defensively. He's good offensively. Yeah, he's a big fat 10 out of 10. He is, in my opinion, the best mutant in the game, worthy of your rank 3, rank 5, any gems. He doesn't need the SIG ability, so that he has that going for him. He has pretty decent prestige, so he has that going for him. He's good solo, good as a support. He's high utility, high damage. He's really fun. He's really satisfying. He's really cool looking. He's the entire package, right? Yeah, that's it. This video has been long enough. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you have any feedback, leave it down below. If you have any requests, leave that down below. Thank you guys for all of the thumbs up, the thumbs down, the subscribes, the dislikes, likes, all of that. It really means the world to me. It really affects the metrics on my end, and let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, and eventually it'll lead me to be able to doing this professionally and doing a lot more time to invest in making really high quality videos. But yeah, thank you guys, love you guys. It's gonna be it for this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.